Hi guys, today I'm going to ask you a little bit of a personal question. How do you think while you're making a big decision in your life? You see, generally there are two types of thinking that is involved in such a process. There is either analytical thinking or there is either instinctive thinking. Now allow me to explain further. Now, when we focus on analytical thinking, which is more or less the major chunk of thinking in the modern era, where this I would blame personally the modern education system in many ways. Because being a part or a product of the modern education system, I can say that we are training the young minds to think more analytically and get rid of their instinct completely. Now, when we talk about analytics, that dates back all the way from first grade, because you would have heard the teachers or even some of these teaching institutions that will say that only if you are good in your aptitude test does it mean that you would succeed in the business world. And that is translated all the way into higher education and beyond, where people just focus on writing these aptitude exams such as CAT, MAT, MMAT, GMAT, GRE, or any other random 4 letters that you want to add and call it an exam. All these things question on your analytical skills, which I'm not saying is wrong by any stretch of the imagination. But these analytical skills are slowly killing off your instinct, the gut feeling that you have in a certain situation. Sometimes you have that hunch that I should have done this, I should do this. Now that is what your instinctive thinking really means. Now back to the analytical thinking for a while before I go to instinctive thinking. Now when we talk about analytical thinking, especially for a guy of my age, the first thing that comes to mind is the choice of course that you want to do in PG. Now for post-graduation, there are 2 sets of people that have plans on how they want to do. One, they look at the analytical aspect of doing a course. Now say MBA is the suitable career option for a certain person. They look not MBA because they like it, because frankly 99.9% do not like MBA. They are just doing it for that name value. And trust me when I say this, they're just doing it for the name value. Now, these people who just choose MBA, they look at 3 main things: the employability after completing that course, the university that they are doing, and the rank of MBA of that university across the globe. So this is all analytics. It's like saying that I know which direction the stock is going to go in the stock market. Not everybody can know how the stock is going to move, right? That's the same way. Analytical thinking, you might have an idea, but you're not going to get the sure clarity that you get through an instinct. Now, as the mind is looking for these rankings, the instinct always says that maybe I'm just not interested in going through the traditional path. Maybe I just don't want to do this course, because your instinct, your gut feeling knows what you really, really want. And that is the central aim of philosophy in general, for you to listen to your gut feeling, to know what you really want, and at times to refrain from what you really do not want. So now when we use our analytical thinking, we might get well in terms of understanding the rankings and the numericals of a certain place, but what you really want is achieved only through your instinctive thinking. How many times, just for 1 second, just pause this video and think about it. How many times has your gut told you to do something and you have missed it? And then later on, I knew this that day, but you did not want to say. That is what your gut feeling can do. Now, why am I talking so high about instinctive thinking? Am I trying to say that instinctive thinking is far, far more superior than all sorts of mathematical and analytical thinking? Yes, in a certain way, and also no, in a certain way. Now, if I tell you that instinctive thinking is going to save your life, what would be your initial reaction? You would probably laugh at my face if I say that. But there is a story of Buddha that is told us years ago on why instinctive thinking really matters. Because your instinctive thinking is your real thinking. It is not something that you need to develop. It is already present. You just have to listen to it. And I'll give you a small story of Buddha himself. Now imagine there is a fire that broke out in the place that you're staying. What would you instinctively do? The key word is instinctively. Would you search for your mother or your kid or for dad or anybody, or would you focus on escaping out of that fire first and then see how you can save other people? What would you do? You would always be on the lookout for yourself at start. Only when you're stable, you look at giving a helping hand to a second individual. That is more or less how instinct is applied in every other facet of life. You always need to listen to your instinct, mainly because your instinct always knows what it really wants. And that is the same thing that has a Hindu story of 5,300 years ago of a charioteer named Krishna and a prince named Arjuna. You see, Arjuna is a person who wants a kingdom that he wants to rule. And Krishna, being a charioteer, asks him, what do you really want in your life? Arjuna says that I want the kingdom. And I also have a feeling that killing so many people is bad. Now what does Krishna say? That if you really want something, and if your instinct says that you have to do something, why do you let too many other complications and little things come in the way of your judgment? That is why I said analytics is trained, or rather designed, to confuse you in and out. When you think in terms of analytics, you always think as, how will a second person respond if I take such a decision? How will my family respond if I take such a decision? What would be the external factors if I take such a decision? All these things become immaterial when you're thinking from your instinct, your gut feeling, because it always knows what you really want and also what you really do not want. Now, when we take a look at all the learned scholars, the immensely successful people in the world, both in terms of monetary and also in terms of themselves as a person. Now, many people in terms of monetary, they don't know how they fell into that pit of money. But people who have realized the knowledge of oneself, they knew exactly what they want and they achieved exactly what they want. To be them, the only difference between them and normal people like you and me is that they followed their instinct and we simply focused on the analytical part and not on our true instinct. So that is why I always emphasize on the fact that instinctive thinking always is being held on a higher regard than analytical thinking. You're working in a corporate surrounding, then your analytical thinking might be of some use. But on the other hand, if you're looking to improve yourself as a person, don't look at analytics. Always take a look at your instinct. And I'm not saying this. Philosophy says this. The philosophy of Bhagavad Gita says this. And the first step to understanding your instinct, and more importantly, trusting your instinct, is freeing your mind, and it will always lead the way. And you also need to know just one thing. It is a gradual process. It is practice, 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 and finally you would be able to trust your instinct. And that's a wrap for this particular episode. And as always, thank you for watching.